My dad disowned my sister and he is dying. How do I convince her to let him go? Backstory: my family used to be really close, but that changed in 2003 when my dad, 55, discovered that my mom, 54, was having an affair with John, 54, my dad's childhood best friend. He was basically his brother back then and he was my dad's best man in his wedding with mom. He begged her to stay and work things out, but my mom ended up leaving him for John and eventually they got a divorce and my mom ended up marrying John 5 months later. My twin sister Sarah, 27, was always the stereotypical daddy's girl. Dad spoiled her a bit more than the rest of us and she was basically his shadow back then, and that's why it was really surprising to us that Sarah chose to stay with our mom after the divorce. Back then me, 27, and her were the only ones to still live with our parents. We have other 4 brothers. I choose to stay with dad and Sarah choose to live with mom, and in the weekends she come to stay with me and dad. I choose to stay with dad and I occasionally went to mom's house. To say that the divorce and my sister choosing to stay with mom messed up my dad is an understatement. He tried to act like he was okay in front of us, but every single weekday for the year following the divorce I could hear him cry himself to sleep. After the divorce the relationship between Sarah and dad didn't change that much. He started to spoil her a bit more than usual and still remained the usual super dad, showing up in every parent-teacher conference, ballet recital and soccer match and being the most present dad possible. Things started to change when she suddenly changed her mind about med school. Our dad is a surgeon, and she always said that she wanted to follow his steps, but mom and John ended up pressuring her to change her career path to become a lawyer. Mom and John are both lawyers. During her studies, John started mentoring her and they became really close. After she finished her education he got her a job at his law firm. On to the issue. In 2017 Sarah got married. My dad was absolutely thrilled about her wedding. He gave Sarah a blank check for her dream wedding. To be fair, he did this to all of us. He really liked weddings, but in Sarah's case he was really excited because she is his only daughter, and I always remembered him talking about walking her down the aisle. Like every wedding that we went to he always said to her that he couldn't wait for the day to walk down his little girl down the aisle. One day before the wedding Sarah drops the bomb that dad and John will be walking her down the aisle together. Well, dad is the most non-confrontational person to walk on this earth and she expected him to just suck it up. He didn't do that. They got into a huge fight. First time I see he get angry, and in the end he didn't attend the wedding and John ended up walking Sarah down the aisle. The fallout was massive. After the wedding, dad and his side of our family basically disowned her and their relationship became non-existent. She tried to reach out after a while and make amends several times, but he simply didn't want to talk or hear about her. We expected him to turn around when she gave birth in 2018, but he doesn't even want to meet her kids. Earlier this year, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and unfortunately the treatment didn't work and he is terminal. Even with it he still doesn't want to see her again and she doesn't understand that. I am very close to my dad and these last few weeks have been really difficult for me. How do I convince her to let him go?